Henrik, you have just published an article which looks at how China has reported its fish catch in foreign waters. Tell us what you found.
Well, China has over the last few decades emerged as the global player when it comes to seafood, one of the largest catcher producers of seafood. And a few years ago, well, more than a decade now actually, a big paper was published illustrating that China is actually over-reporting its domestic catches. And since China is such a large producer, that over-reporting has implications for the global understanding of how much is actually being caught. Those data were corrected by Daniel Pauly and his team, and now that whole same team is doing something similar, but for the distant water fleet. And if China is what it is, seems to be over-reporting national domestic catches, they are massively under-reporting their distant water catches, and we have estimated how big that under-reporting is.
And in terms of numbers, approximately, what were they?
Well, China's reporting slightly over 370,000 tons. But in our estimates, it's actually more than 4 million tons that they're catching in distant water, so 12 times more than the official estimates.
And in terms of methodology, I mean, how did you actually go about to find this data, which is presumably quite difficult to get access to?
Well, this is a big team and a big team effort that's been going on for quite a while, and it's the team led by the University of British Columbia Fisheries Center. There's around 30 individuals that have been engaged in collecting data, and there's been everything from scientific reports, some information on access agreements if that's available, media reports. So everything you can find in any media in any languages. We've gone through Scandinavian languages, Spanish, Italian, newspapers, Chinese, any record. So this whole big team has been sort of vacuuming the planet for information regarding China's distant water activities.
And how has that affected, if you like, the uncertainty or certainty of the data that you actually came across?
Well, it's naturally really large, and I mean it's a really large estimate, and I mean the difference between 370,000 tons and slightly over 4 million tons is obviously really, really big. But what I think we can say with confidence is that we're very certain that our estimate is a lot closer than the official numbers, and I think that's where we have to start.
And this underreporting, is this just a case for China, or is it a global problem?
Well, I think given that China is such a large player in seafood production now, China is probably one of the biggest countries right now. But I mean, if we look at it historically, I mean, Japan and the former Soviet Union used to be the major distant water fishing fleets, and now it's China's turn. But in between, we've seen several other countries that have been really large distant water fishing activities, and there have been no similar attempts to estimate their activities. But I think today, China is definitely one of the large distant water fishing nations.
In terms of policy actions, what would you say are the necessary steps?
Well, I think this was the first necessary step to try to get, I mean, the Daniel Pauly and his team, they have been for more than a decade now attempted to understand how much is actually being caught from oceans. And this is one big chunk in understanding that. But of course, improving transparency and conducting similar types of estimates for other countries is of course really critical to understand. So I mean, we're in the European context, there's the European fisheries policy debate has been a lot about improving transparency in these agreements. So of course, making sure that the information is actually available, being China's access agreements to Mauritania or European access agreements to any other countries, it's really critical that those become public record. So you don't have to trawl through all this difficult information in order to get estimates, but policymakers actually push for access agreements that are transparent, so we get a better understanding on who's doing what where.